Good afternoon, Girl Scouts. My name is Megan. I'm with the Girl Scouts of Central Maryland. Today we're going to be making milk plastic. I'm gonna give it just a couple moments to let some people kind of pop on, and then we'll go ahead and get started. For those of you that are just kind of coming in right now, we're gonna need a couple different things for our activity today. The two main things that we're going to need, our ingredients for our milk plastic, is going to be milk, specifically cow's milk. This won't work with like soy milk or nut milk or any other things like that, and vinegar or lemon juice. So those are going to be the two ingredients used to make milk plastic. A couple other things that we're going to need, we're going to need a strainer of some sort, either one that has really thin little areas for everything to fall through, or if you don't have a strainer that's really thin, like thin with small holes like that, we can use cheesecloth or a bandana. I'm going to be using a bandana today, and we're going to need some bowls and stuff like that to kind of get things going. And we're also going to need an adult's help because we are going to be using the stove and we are going to be heating up milk, but we want to be keeping a really close eye on it because we want it to heat up but not boil. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'll show you what we're working with, but our very first step that we're going to get going with is we're going to need just 1 cup of milk. This activity, making milk plastic, is really cool that we can try it with different types of milk, like different percentages. I have 2% milk that we're going to be working with today, but we need just a cup of milk, so I'm going to go ahead and measure out 1 cup of milk. And as you're coming in, let me know where you're watching from and what grade level Girl Scout you are. This is a fun activity for anybody to do. So I'm just curious who we have watching here, where we're from. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add this cup of milk to just a small saucepan. Go ahead. Pour my cup of milk in there. Go ahead and pull you guys so we can see. So I just have a small saucepan just with milk. Those are the only 2 things that we have going on here. And we're going to, again, make sure that our parents are helping us with this step. We're going to get that kind of going on some heat. I'm going to keep mine on pretty low heat. We're going to want to get that milk just warm enough so that it starts to steam. So we'll start to see kind of steam coming off on the top. So we want to have our parents making sure that they're keeping a close eye. You want to help them as well, but make sure that they're helping you because milk can burn very easily. If it gets too hot and it starts to boil, it'll burn very easily, and we don't want to burn our milk. So as that is on our stove getting warmed up, I'm going to show you the rest of the ingredients and the rest of the things that we're going to be using to make our milk plastic. I'm actually going to hang on to this cup so that you girls can see what I'm working with because it's my only really clear bowl. But you girls, as you go through this, you don't need to have something clear. You can use like a cereal bowl or something like that. And as I said, you can use a strainer that's really thin. My strainers that I have aren't thin enough. They have big holes, they're really more meant for pasta. So I have a bandana that I'm going to be using. If you have cheesecloth, you can use cheesecloth. You can also use a dish towel. So those are what we're going to be needing. We're also going to need vinegar, and for our vinegar, we're going to need a tablespoon to measure it out with. Our vinegar measurements don't have to be perfectly exact, but about a tablespoon is what I'm going to be using to roughly measure out what I'm working with. I also have a spoon to stir everything with. I'm going to go ahead and just keep an eye on my milk as I'm going through with this. And to make our milk plastic, we can use like a silicone mold, like an ice tray mold, but the ones that are kind of mushy that are made out of silicone. We can use cookie cutters, and we can also kind of form them with our hands. I have 2 different cookie cutters depending on how much plastic my milk makes. I might be able to make 2, but I have a trefoil cookie cutter and a pineapple cookie cutter ready to go. And I also, we're going to need quite a bit of paper towels. We're going to be getting all of this liquid out of this milk somehow, and I'll go ahead and show you that once we get it going. But again, go ahead and go back. We just want to make sure that as our milk is heating up, we want it just to get warm. We don't want it to boil. We're going to keep it kind of warming up until we start to see steam coming off the top of our milk. You can also do this in the microwave. As you're doing it in the microwave, make sure you have a microwave safe dish, and you want to slowly heat it up in increments, just so that it gets nice and warm. So I'm going to keep an eye on that milk. Again, for those of you that might just be coming in, what we have going on right now is we have 1 cup of milk heating up on the stove for our milk plastic. So as that's heating up, it shouldn't take too long for it to start to get really warm and to see steam coming off on the top. I'm just keeping a close eye on it, making sure that it doesn't burn, because milk burns very easily. So. And there we go. So I'm starting to see a little bit of steam coming off of mine. If yours is not ready yet, that's okay. But for the sake of this, I'm going to go ahead and take the heat off of mine so that it doesn't burn. And I'm going to go ahead and very carefully transfer my warm milk just back into this clear container so you girls can see what I'm working with. You can also go ahead and put yours in a larger bowl so that you have some more room to stir with. I'd suggest that. But just for the purpose of you all, so you can see what I'm doing and see what's happening, I'm going to be putting it back into my clear measuring cup. So, go ahead and carefully pour that in. Make sure my stove is turned off. And so now I have my cup of heated up milk right here. What we're going to do is we're going to add about 3 or 4 tablespoons of vinegar or lemon juice, either works, to our milk. And we're going to see almost immediately something happen. I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet. So, 1, 2, 3, and again, it doesn't have to be perfect. 4. So I have 4 tablespoons, and I'm going to very gently start to stir that mixture. And I'm going to go ahead and show you. As I'm stirring it, we're going to see that it's separating, and it kind of looks kind of gooey and gross. So what's happening right now is that milk is made up of links of molecules, and when you heat it up and add vinegar to it, it kind of takes all those molecules that are kind of floating around in the milk, and they're then going and linking themselves together to create something that's called a polymer. And the specific material that is being created with this is called casein. And that is the protein in milk. So we're going to stir that for just about a minute so that it's all completely separated, and we're going to see that it looks kind of clumpy and chunky, and we're going to kind of yellowish. It doesn't look really great right now. It's kind of gross looking. What we're going to do next, once we get that step finished, is that we are going to go ahead and then strain off all of these chunks, and we're going to pour off any of that extra liquid. So I'm going to use just a bowl right here because I don't have a good strainer for this. So I'm going to use my bandana, and what I found to be the easiest is to kind of put my bandana in another bowl and kind of push it down and make a bowl with it. Once I do that, I'm going to very carefully pour my mixture right here into the bandana. Once we do this, that's going to allow for all of that liquid to kind of fall out of it and leave behind just the casein, which is that kind of chunky milk. So we're gonna go ahead and lift that up. Slide it over here. We're gonna lift it up and just gently kind of squeeze it. We wanna try and get all of the liquid out. And again, this will be a little warm. It shouldn't be too hot. If you wanna have your parents kind of test it first to see if it's too hot, just because it was on the stove, but it should be just warm enough that it just kind of feels like a nice little hand warmer. So what I'm doing is I'm squeezing out the liquid as much as I can out of this ball right here. Once we squeezed out the liquid just a little bit, you can actually go ahead and take it out of whatever you're straining it with and kind of see that kind of creates kind of a clumpy kind of putty. It's kind of gross, kind of fun. We're gonna then, I'm gonna go ahead and just put that down. We're gonna dry it off just a little bit more. And we're gonna take some paper towels and continue to try and pull out the moisture from this. Just keep trying to squeeze it and get out as much moisture as we can. The more moisture and liquid that we get out now, the quicker it's gonna take for our creations to dry and form. So what we can do with this, what we've created right there, we can see that mine only created a tiny little bit. Depending on the amount of the type of milk you have, you might have more casein or less casein. I tried this with skim milk and it did not give me as much as the 2%. And if you have whole milk, that's another experiment that you can try. I didn't have whole milk, so I didn't try that. So if you did, I'm curious to see how much it created. But what you can do with this, if you have a mold, you can go ahead and kind of push it into the mold and set it aside to dry. Or what I like to do, what I did, is with a cookie cutter, I just put a cookie cutter and I did a trefoil in just somewhere that I can leave it, a plate or a bowl. And if you can flatten it, you can do that, or you can kind of just use your fingers to smush and mush what you've created into the shape of your mold. And I left mine, and I'll show you the one that I made. I left mine for overnight sitting in the cookie cutter mold, and then I removed it and let it dry the rest of the way. So we can go ahead and see and start to create this. This is a really great thing that if you wanted to, you could go ahead and take something. I have a paintbrush right here. I'm going to use the end of my paintbrush. You can poke a hole in it and create it so that you can then maybe make an ornament out of this or something to hang something with. We could make swaps out of these or just other little fun toys. And what we're going to do is we're going to let that sit, that squishy gooey mixture, sit for a couple days. And as I said, with mine, I took my cookie cutter off of it after the first about 12 to 24 hours. Just because it was already starting to dry, but it wasn't completely dry. But after about 2 days of drying, you'll have a nice hard piece of plastic. This is really hard and strong, so I have a trefoil right here. It's really cool. And then after that, what we can do is we can go on and we can paint it however we'd like and decorate it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just gonna get my hands a little messy. We can go through and we can paint it. I'm gonna do a green trefoil. You can also use Sharpies to decorate these with. These are great things to do, like a swap to kind of give to other friends. We can make ornaments out of these for the holiday season, or just fun things to kind of decorate and play with. And as I was going through this, I actually learned that a long time ago, before plastic as we know it was created, a lot of toys were made using this sort of method. There are a couple extra steps that were done to make it a little bit more sturdy and a little bit smoother and a little bit harder, but this is how plastic toys were originally created. But once you have yours all set to the side, I'm going to go ahead and put that down. So with the ones that we've created that are sitting to dry, you're going to want to make sure that it's staying somewhere that's out of the way, that it won't get knocked into, it won't get wet or anything like that. We're going to leave it for a couple days until it is completely hard and ready to be painted and decorated. So I can't wait to see what you girls have created with your milk plastic. It's just a really fun STEM activity, and if you want to take it a step further and kind of do some experiments with it, you can go through and you can try it with different types of milk to see if it creates a better product or a different product or more. I'm curious to hear what you girls try, but other than that, happy creating, and we'll see y'all next time.